All right, everybody that is joining us this evening. My name is Diego Mello with Strata Ventures, and I want to welcome everybody that is joining us tonight. Let's see, we've got a couple, we've got a lot of new names, Steve. Uh,
Good.
let's see here. Dr. Wallace, always good to see you, sir, or know that you're attending. Let's see here. Mr. Bliss, good to see you again. Mr. Joseph Settle, Ms. Christina Weaver, Lynn Michael Perez, young lady. I'll be in San Antonio here soon, so hopefully I'll reach out to you and we can go have lunch. She's one of the coolest people, Steve. Lynn Michael Perez, you got to meet her.
Okay.
Mitchell Halpern, also great. He's one of our members out of the Bronx in New York.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Nice guy. Hope you're feeling better, sir. And a lot of people else that are joining us. And if I missed your name, I apologize, but we do have a good amount of new attendees. Great. So I want to go ahead and let everybody know my name is Diego Mello with Strata Ventures, and this is the bi-monthly or bi-weekly webinar that we do at SVI, and we do that just to give back to the investor community by bringing some of our great people in the industry. Tonight, we're going to be speaking to Steve Vigil of the Wealth Club. I'm super excited after, I don't know how many years we finally get to work together, Steve. I've always been excited, wanted to work with you and Miss Susan. And Steve's going to talk to us tonight about a pretty interesting topic called mastering the walkthrough with the seller. And so I'm going to go ahead and move forward here on the presentation. There's a QR code down at the bottom right, guys. If you wanted to go ahead and scan that, you can to know more about SVI. And right now we're going through the welcome, and then we'll get started on the topic information, and that's when I'll hand that off over to Mr. Steve. And then we'll have a Q&A session closer towards the end, around 7:10, 7:15. Strata Ventures, my company, was established in May of 2012, for those of you that don't know who we are. And we're a full-service real estate investment company that primarily deals with the implementation of actually practicing real estate. We have the 4 prongs of business, which is the acquisition analysis, real estate services, project management and contracting, and last but not least, funding, which is obviously Steve, you and Miss Susan that have a company that funds real estate transactions for investors. If you are joining us via Zoom, guys, remember you do have your Q&A button there. Put all of the questions in the Q&A button on the bottom part of your Zoom window. If you have any questions in the chat, those questions, please remove those and put those into the Q&A, because the moderators are only in the chat area, guys. We'll handle the Q&A. And if Steve or myself are boring, just hit the leave button and we will see you on the next one. Here's an introduction of the core SVI team. Every single person here plays a vital role in all of our members' development and also understanding their progress, because we always want to make sure that everybody has a person to reach out to in this amazing industry that we've got. So a little bit about me. For those of you that don't know me, I was born in Colombia, South America. At the age of 4, came to the US. I live here in Houston, Texas. And I'm married to my wife, Kate, and my son, Aiden. And congratulations, Monkey. He finished his first year at LSU. So he's going to be a sophomore now at LSU. So we're super excited. Previous mortgage broker and asset manager, and I started investing in May of 2012, and that's where I met you, Steve, right? We both took the plunge in real estate education in this big, massive seminar, and we actually ended up finding out we lived kind of one neighborhood next to each other. And yep. We both took our separate paths, but again, aligned ourselves back, and to me, I believe that's such an important thing. After going through ups and downs, you find out the people that have actually made it through this industry. Founded in 2012, and in 2014, I created the SVI platform that is today. So all new investors, please reach out to us. We'd love to sit down one-on-ones to talk to you. In June of 2020, we launched our national platform, and now we're over 2,300 members nationally in over 27 states, and we're continually growing. And we have a company motto called "It's a win-win, or we don't do it." And with that, Steve, I like to tell people about what is the definition of an investor in SVI's mentality. I bet, Steve, for the people that are at the Wealth Club, if you ask them, what does a real estate investor do? Are you probably going to get many different answers?
Every time,
every
every single time.
So that's why we want to make sure that you understand your vital role in this industry. And at SVI, an investor analyzes, acts, invests, and profits with one word in mind, and that word is risk. So we are huge about mitigating risk. And one of those aspects of mitigating risk, Mr. Steve Vigil is going to speak to us about that. So, Steve, I'm going to let you introduce yourself and your bio. So I'm going to move on to the next screen here, and I'll let you take it away from there.
Okay, well, thank you so much for having me tonight. I really appreciate it. And guys, I hope I'm going to give you some really good education and walk you through the things I do when I've talked to sellers, and I've been doing it the same way for many, many years and had very good success with it. But we got started, I actually started buying rental properties in 2002, but really didn't have any idea what I was doing. And over the next 10 years, we picked up 5 single family homes. We picked up an 8 unit, a 10 unit, and we made lots and lots of mistakes. And but we made it through it, and we survived it. And in 2012, we knew that if we really wanted to do something in this business, we really needed to get some good education and really kind of rebuild the model of what we were doing. And so that's when we got started. That's when we met Diego. And so my partner Susan, and I, we founded first SVSM Enterprises LLC, and started off wholesaling, rehabbed lots and lots of houses, and then we were able to. In 2018, we took over the Wealth Club. The Wealth Club is in its 19th year of existence, giving education. We've created SVSM Capital, which is a company that we've been able to keep our investors' money working. Now we're doing private lending out of that. And we've got a growth fund that we're almost completed with to roll out hopefully in the next 3 or 4 weeks. It's just been a wonderful growth through the years. And we have a number of other SVSM companies for rental properties and other things that we do. But we love being able to give back and teach, and that's what the Wealth Club is all about, is teaching you guys all the things that we do, all the things that we know. And there's no secrets out there in this business. We just got to get out there and learn the right things to do, take action on it, and get the proper guidance in what we're doing. And so tonight I'm going to try and give you some good guidance in how I approach dealing with sellers. And it's a pretty simple approach. And it's much different than what most of the gurus say out there, because we're not gurus. So if you want, I can go ahead and you want to share my screen here. Oh, looks like we already got it up there. Well, can you guys see that or not? It's not sharing yet?
No, sir, not sharing yet.
Oh, that's okay. How's that? Is that better?
Yep, looks like we're good. Miss Enid and Oriana, can we get a thumbs up on Steve being all right? Perfect.
Okay, let me see if there we go. That's why I'm trying to get the full screen here. Okay, so mastering the walkthrough. This is something that, like I said, we made lots of mistakes in the beginning, and because of that, we developed some what we think are very good methods for walking through the process with our sellers. And this is about helping people, and we approach it that way, and we always have. And as I go through this, I think you're really going to see that. So, what are some of our first goals that we want to try and accomplish with our seller? Well, the first thing we need to do is we have to make a good impression. So when that first phone call comes in, we've got about 2 seconds, so 1 or 2 seconds to make a good impression. So what we need to get in the habit of doing is just always answering the phone in a positive manner. That's really all it is. We tend to overthink this stuff, and really it's simple. We just need to, put a smile on your face every time you answer the phone, and it's going to be a positive response that comes out. We need to talk with confidence. And, I have people ask me all the time, I'm scared. I don't know what to do. Well, you know what I did in the beginning? I went and talked to myself in front of the mirror. And I just made myself feel more confident, just, like someone was calling in, and all I was doing was answering the phone and saying hi. And generally when someone calls in, if I take a call, my response is going to be, hey, hi, this is Steve. How can I help you? And, because they're calling us, remember, they're calling us. And it's just a very simple way to answer a phone. And because they're calling us, if it's we're looking for motivated sellers, and they're going to, start telling us a little bit about themselves right off the bat. And I always, right from the very beginning, want to assure them that we're going to do everything we can to help them. It's that simple. Now, obviously, it sounds simpler than it is if we haven't done it before, but that's why we practice this. That's why we just get in front of the mirror and practice. That's the easiest way to do it. And that's what I have done for many, many years. So what's the real information that we need to get when someone calls in? Well, we need to make sure we get good contact information from the seller. And I can say from experience in the beginning, when we're nervous, sometimes we forget to ask for a phone number. I've done that before. And really, that's the most important thing for me. In the beginning, I'm not worried so much about getting an email address. I know if you look at a lot of the great big scripts and listen to a lot of the gurus, they tell you got to do a lot of things. But as I go through this, you'll see that really, I don't think you do, especially in the beginning. While you're getting a ton of information, I'm going on appointments and getting deals. That's how I've always looked at it. So, we obviously want to get the property address, because I've, gotten off the phone, especially in the early years, and forgot to ask for the property address. And then I had to call them back, or, do something to, figure out if I did get the phone number, I'd have to call them back and get the property address. So one of the things that we try to do is, I always want to ask a seller, why are they considering selling their house? I never ask them why they're selling their house or what the problem is. I never approach it that way from the beginning. And the reason I use the word consider is because it's very non-threatening to them. I'm not putting them under any pressure. I'm not being aggressive with them. And I think it's very important, especially in the beginning in that first conversation, that we're not aggressive towards our sellers. If it's someone that's truly motivated and has an issue, they're looking for help. They're wanting for someone that's going to talk to them calm, with confidence, and not ask them what they're going to think are threatening questions. And so, we have to think about how we say some things, and I'll go through some more of that as we go through this. And after if I ask them, why are they considering their house, then I'll generally ask them, the condition of their property, and it could be a variety of reasons someone needs to sell their house, as you'll learn as we go through this. But just get it. I just want an overview. Give me an overview of how you think your property is with the condition. And for the most part, people are going to be pretty honest with you, especially if we're looking for that motivated seller. If it's someone that's not motivated, then I'm looking to get off the phone. I'm not going to waste a lot of time with them. So some more information that we need to get when we're talking to a seller is, how do we ask questions to the sellers so they're willing to give us the answer? That's really how we had to break it down and think about it. How am I going to ask a question so someone wants to give me the answer? And asking in that non-threatening manner is how we do that. So a very good example of that would be, if you have gone to seminars, if you've listened to the gurus and they give you a script that's about a page or a page and a half long, on every one of them, and just about every guru I know out there is going to pound on you that you don't get off the phone until you know how much that person owes on that property. And I can tell you from experience, if you ask someone how much they owe on the property in that first conversation, most of the time they're going to say it's none of your damn business. And if someone asked me that question, that would be my response. But I can ask the same question in a very non-threatening way. And I'll give you an example. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask that seller, how long have you owned the property? And if this seller comes back to me and says, we've owned that property for 30 years, my response is going to be, wow, that is so fantastic. I'll bet you were thrilled the day you paid that property off. Well, you're going to get a number of responses. If that pet property is paid off, that seller is going to be proud of that. And they're going to come back and say, man, you better believe it. That was the greatest day ever. We would just love having our house paid off. Or you might get a response like, well, we had the house paid off, but we needed a little cash a couple of years ago. So we took a little bit of an equity loan out. So we owe a little bit on it. Or you might get the response, well, yeah, we had that house paid off, and man, we went and did a full cash out refi, a year ago. And, now we owe, full retail back on the property, or whatever, 80% of it, or whatever they gave you. So I'm not getting an exact number. I don't care about an exact number at that point. but I'm getting an idea if we've got equity in that property. And I asked it in a very non-threatening manner, and I built the seller up in the process of doing it. So when I talk about getting information and asking questions to get answers, that's how we have to think about it. That's how I think about it. And that's how I always ask questions, no matter what it is. So are you prepared when you go out on an appointment? And I've gone out on appointments many times with many students, many friends, and most of the time I get out on an appointment and they don't have anything in their hands. Well, for me, I make my little packet. I'm a paper guy, and I have my CRM notes on top. I have my CAD under that. So here in Harris County, if it's a Harris County property, I'm gonna have my HCAD. I'm gonna have my comps underneath that, and I'm gonna have a Google Maps picture of the house. And I carry that into every single property with me. So if I need to write a contract right then and there, I've got the legal description, I've got the name that's on file. I can do everything right then and there. I can look at my comps as I'm walking the property. I'm very prepared when I do that. But really, the key is the best salesman is the guy that's the best listener. So how well did you listen to your seller on the phone? Really important. Based on the conversation with your seller, what did you learn about the seller? One of the things that I really try to pay attention to when I'm talking to my sellers is their personality. And it's obviously easier to do in person when you're face to face with them, but when you're on the phone, we have to try and figure that out. Is this someone that has an aggressive personality that when you get out there, they're going to want you to give them an offer and give them a contract right then and there? Is this someone that's a technical person? They're going to need information. You're going to need to bring some information out to them about your process, about maybe the comps and the values of the properties in the neighborhood. We have to listen, and the better we can listen will help us maybe be a little bit more prepared when we get out to that property. Now, it's not going to be every time, but the more we do it, the more we start paying attention to it, the better we'll get at doing that. So when we get out to that property, we've got a much better idea of what direction the deal is going to go out of the gate. Now, obviously, when we get to a property, anything can change, and it does often do, but it gives us a really good idea. One of the other things that I think is really important is I've got my estimate repair sheet. So I take my estimate repair sheet with me every time. Now, I've been doing this a long time. I've walked thousands and thousands of properties, and we've done hundreds and hundreds of deals. And for numbers, I don't necessarily need this, but I still take it in with me because a seller likes to see you doing your homework. They want to see that you're looking at that property, that you're making notes. I think that you build credibility by doing this. And if they come back on a certain item and they disagree with it, but they agree with all the other items of repairs that need to be done on a property, now you're only dealing with one item that you might need to negotiate some numbers on. So I think this is a great tool for great credibility, and this is something I carry with me all the time. And we can do these. We can make these a million different ways through talking to contractors, through going and getting some pricing at Lowe's, Home Depot. That's how all this kind of stuff started. And so that's how when we built this out, that was how we did that, getting numbers from our contractors as well. So now it's time to meet the seller when we go out to the property. And this is where we really are going to need to shine. Now we've got to build off of our conversation on the phone. Now we're going to be face to face with our sellers. And when we're face to face with them, they can see your facial expressions and you can see theirs. So really, for me, the most important thing about that is we just need to be open and honest. And as you're going to see as we get to some more slides here, just how open and honest I am with my sellers. Because I lay it all out on the table, and I will answer any question that they ask me. And I'll walk them through how it works, and you'll see how I do that here in a minute. But this is a really, really important. Be open and honest. We're there to help them. The deal, the money, all that will come later, as you will see as I go through this more. So walking the property. Now we get out the property. I meet the seller. We're face to face. We have our little greeting. And now I need to walk the property. Well, I always try to walk the outside of the property first. because I want to get that done because I want to get inside with the seller. And really, to walk the outside of a property takes me about 5 minutes. I mean, I'm looking at the roof, I'm looking at HVAC, I'm looking for any cracks in the foundation or in the brick for foundation. You know, it's simple stuff. It's stuff that doesn't take a long time to walk and figure out if you have an issue or something. So and that way, if I get it done right at the beginning, then I can spend as much time as I need to with that seller inside based on whatever the situation is for that particular deal. So when I get inside, I try to get my sellers to walk room to room with me. Now, this doesn't always happen, but most of the time it does. Sometimes they'll just go in, they'll say, I'm in the kitchen, go walk around, look at all the house and come back in here when you're done. But if I can get them to walk with me, I do. And this allows me to get to know better. It's just about building better rapport as we're going through the house and going through the rooms. Get a drink. And so as I'm walking the house and looking at it and talking to them, I'm looking around at everything in the house, even though it's like, they're telling me, don't worry, I got all the junk. And I'm like, don't worry about that. I'm looking at the house. I don't care about that. But what I am looking for are things that are relatable. Pictures of kids, pictures of sports events with their kids. If they're a hunter or fisherman, maybe they got animals mounted on the wall, things that we can relate to that you can just build a conversation off of, because people like it when you recognize that stuff and you compliment it. Or you talk, they've got kids because you see the pictures and you can talk about your kids too. People love that kind of interaction. And it also shows that you're just a person. You're putting a personal element into the conversation. And people in general like that a lot. So I think it's really important that we walk through and really take a time to do that. And for me, that's really important. And if they don't walk around the house with me, guess what? When I come back and sit down with them, anything I've noticed just gives me an opportunity to have additional conversation with them and continue to build that rapport and that trust. Because really, if they don't trust us, they're not going to work with us. And we want to build as much trust as we can. And we're just getting to know them. We're just starting this relationship with them. So that's really, really important. So looking at the property and knowing the repairs that should be done. There's a number of repairs that are going to need to be done almost every time on every single property. Like I said, we have rehabbed hundreds and hundreds of properties. And we've got it down to a science pretty much. And before I ever get to a property, I know things that need to be done. And some of the most common things are, we paint the inside of every house. I don't think we've ever had a house where we've only had, maybe I can count on one hand all the houses that we never had to paint on the inside. But you're going to be painting the inside of it. So if we go back to our estimate repair sheet, we could already have that checked off. If we know how much our contractor is going to charge us for that, we can already have that number filled in. Almost every house we go into, we change flooring all the time. This is a very common thing that's changed, that we change out. If you know what that price is, or you have a square foot price, then basically you just need to multiply that by the square footage of the house, give 5 or 10% of waste, and you're going to have a very accurate number for doing that. And you can do that before you even get to the house. And if you don't need to use that number, then you just don't add it in on your column where you have all your numbers. Countertops is something that's very common to replace. We replace countertops all the time and have for years. And so this is a number that I have a pretty good idea of what it's going to cost us, and I can put that in there already. So when I'm there talking with that seller, I don't have to think about that. And it just helps me get that farther. It helps me not worry so much about trying to figure out what numbers are and having conversation and building a rapport with my seller. When we look at a property, how do you decide what type of flooring you should install? How do you know if you should use granite versus laminate countertops? These are common questions I get all the time. Well, on flooring, in just about every property we buy, because we also have a lot of rental properties. Well, if it's a rental property, all carpet comes out no matter what. So carpet goes, and do you decide based on your exit strategies, how you're going to decide that. But looking at what the other properties in the neighborhood are doing. But if it's if it's rental property, we're probably going to put vinyl plank in it. We used to put tile in. Now vinyl plank is kind of taking the place of tile, not all the time, but most of the time. If you're going to be flipping a house, it's probably going to be laminate floors and tile, a combination of things. So you can help decide, learn and decide that stuff. When it comes to countertops, I've got to be quite honest with you, and I'll tell you that we put granite in just about everything nowadays because it's the common thing to put in, because people like granite, even if it's a rental property. I mean, we've got rental properties that we bought for $30,000-$40,000 and put 30,000-40,000 into it, and every one of them have granite countertops in there because it helps me when I'm going to rent that property out. The expectation, the appearance looks much nicer and people love it, and I put tenants in it faster. And the cost, if you're buying prefab pieces, your cost in your granite and your laminate is almost a wash. People think that granite's going to be so much more expensive, and the reality is that it's not. And you can find a granite guy around every corner. It's hard to find guys to put in laminate countertops. So just food for thought there. Different levels of repairs. How do we determine what repairs need to be done? Well, obviously, when we're running our comps, this is the most important time to find out what our comps, our sold properties were put into them. We can go and look. I go and look at the pictures on all my comps. I can run through them quite quickly and go, okay, well, they did granite there, they did laminate there. Is there anything special about this house that made it stand out? And you can also tell by days on market if that's a very, that style that they're doing is very popular in that neighborhood, or just it's a very popular style. And once you start doing this, it doesn't take long to run through this stuff and determine that. But we look at this every single time to help us determine, is it granite? Is it marble? Of course, price point's going to, dictate that a lot too. Price points of properties. The price points of properties we deal with, anywhere from 150 to 300. We're going to be doing. These are all pretty typical standard items that are going to be pretty easy to, pretty cost effective to put into a property. And then one of the things that we're also looking at is this a neighborhood where there's a lot of rehab properties? Because if there's a lot of rehab properties in that neighborhood, you might have to do a little better job. Make sure that you do a better job and have that quality there in your rehab. If it's a rental neighborhood, we might not have to put that quality in, but it still has to be a very good rentable property. So we're going to do a very good rehab, even if it's a rental property. But that's how we're going to determine, that's going to help us determine these things. And of course, if it's in neighborhoods where we do a lot of work, or neighborhoods where we've got a lot of properties, we already know what the expectation is going in, and we can move even that much faster on it. Estimating your repairs based on exit strategy. I think this is really important that we touch on this. If you're going to flip the property, then you're obviously probably going to want to do a full rehab, depending on the repairs that need to be done on the property. We might not, the full rehab might not cost you that much if the house is in pretty good shape, which is the kind of deal we like a whole lot. If you plan on keeping the property as a rental, would you do your repairs differently than if you're doing a flip? Now, if you listen to all the wholesalers and all the gurus out there, everybody will give you an ARV and tell you that you're going to put $30,000 into it to flip it and $10,000 in it as a rental property. Now, I'm not disputing either one of those repair costs, but what I will dispute is your ARV needs to change if you're only going to put $10,000 in repairs. Your value will not be as high as if you're putting $30,000 repairs into the property. And we'll talk about that a little more here in just a second. And then if you're going to wholesale the property, what's your best method for estimating your repairs if you're going to wholesale the property, that you can do it quickly? And really in the beginning, what I did and what I teach people to do is use a square foot pricing. So what you need to get pretty good at doing if you're going to do that is knowing You know, is it going to be a $20 a foot rehab, a $25 a foot rehab, a $30 a foot rehab? And by looking, you know, does it need a roof? Does it need HVAC? Does it just need cosmetic? And of course, in this day and age, because of prices being so high with materials, you know, a minor rehab is still going to cost you, you know, it's going to be more expensive than it used to be. So figuring out if it's, you know, $20 a foot rehab, and the house is 1,500 square foot, then just multiply it and boom, and use that number. It's not going to be an exact number, but it's going to give you a pretty good idea, and it's going to be fairly close. You'd be amazed how close it will be when a contractor comes in and gives a price. That's always, in the beginning, that blew me away, how accurate that method worked. But if it's a $30 a foot rehab and you're pricing at $15 a foot, well, then your number is going to be off. So just knowing how to figure that out, and by, you know, talking to some contractors and getting some basic prices, you can go through a house fairly quickly and figure that out. And after you do it a time or two, it becomes a lot easier as well. Estimating your repairs based on how you're financing the deal. This is major. So if you're wholesaling the deal, do you know how your buyers are financing your deal? Now, in the beginning, like I said, all I did was wholesale in the beginning, but I got really good at it. And one of the reasons I got really good at it was because I knew my buyers. You know, we all talk about having these great big buyers lists. Well, really, we just have a great big email list, and we're trying to find, you know, 5, 10, 15 good solid buyers on that. But when I did that, I got to know every one of my buyers. I knew exactly how all of them financed their deals. I knew what kind of rehabs they wanted to do. I knew what their exit strategies were. And this really helped me when I was looking at a property, negotiating a deal, talking to a seller. I could maybe change my negotiations or change what I was saying to the seller based on who I knew what my buyer was going to be. This was a huge benefit to me. And I had repeat buyers. I brought those same group of buyers. I brought them deals time and time again. And it really helped me with my knowledge, not only with my negotiating skills, talking with my sellers, but it helped me with my estimating my repairs, everything. It was unbelievable. If you plan on fixing, flipping the property yourself, how are you going to get your financing? Have you thought about that? Are you going to use hard money? Are you going to use private money? Have you started to line those things up? Finding out what your lender is going to require. Really important, because that's going to help you in how you're, you know, getting that deal, how you can move on that deal. If you have any flexibility in your negotiations, all these things will help you tremendously. And if you're keeping the properties around property, well, you're going to have to refinance that property out if you get short-term financing to do the flip. And if we're doing short-term financing, there's going to be a lot more requirements. And knowing what your lender is going to require, or what any of your buyers that you're working with, what their lenders require for that, is going to be unbelievably helpful. And it's going to really help you guide how you can negotiate that deal and the things that you can do. And like I said, the level of the rehab is definitely going to affect the ARV. So be very cognizant of that.
And Steve, one question.
Yep.
From everything that you said, and just coming to this part of the financing side of it, would you say that most people are putting the cart in front of the horse straight out of the gate?
Oh, all the time.
Where you have to make sure you know you can deliver, especially on the financing, with knowing there's so many financing options out there. Mm-hmm. It's already hard enough to find a deal. It's actually easier to get money nowadays. Would you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Okay.
The deals are the way hardest thing to find out there right now, without a doubt.
So guys, what Steve is saying about making sure you have your financing in order and understanding what your lender's looking for, that's where you should be spending your time. Really, at the beginning of your career, is understanding what your exit strategy and how you're going to make this happen. And
without a doubt, knowing your exit strategies are everything. Yes, I agree 100%. So let me see, where am I at here? So then walking our sellers through our process. Now, I do this with every single seller, and I think it's very, very important. And I have had sellers call me back time and time again over the years, and I've gotten deals because I do this. I sit down with my sellers and I explain to them who we are as a company, how we work as a company. When you're working with me, if we sign this contract, we're going to be the ones at the closing table on this deal. I walk them through how the entire industry works and all the different things that you can do out there. But this is who we are and this is how we work. I walk them through the process of, if we agree on a price, then we're going to write a contract. Here in greater Houston area, I use the Trek 1 and 4 residential contract, fantastic contract, and it's certified by Trek. And as an investor, we can use that contract, and people are used to it. Our title company loves it. My attorneys love that we use that. Very, very good contract to use. And I will explain with our seller, we get it under contract, how it goes to our title company, how we get the title commitment back, tax certificate, walk them through every single step, all the way through the closing process of how the deal will close, how we'll close the process in the end. And you would be amazed how much your sellers will love that you do that, because most people never do that. They're not going to take the time to sit with their sellers and do that. I've been asked by investors time and time again over the years, how much time do you spend with a seller? As much time as it takes. Sometimes I spend 15, 20 minutes with a seller. Sometimes I spend 3 hours with a seller. It doesn't matter. I'm trying to explain to them the process. I want to help them. Remember, help in the beginning of this is very important. And the more people we can do that with, the better it's going to be for us. And let me go through these last few slides, and I'll give you a better understanding of that. So I always start talking about their situation. So now that we start negotiating, it's time to, we've gone through all our process. It's time to start doing our negotiating. So I'm starting off my negotiating, talking about the situation, whatever their situation is. So does the house need a lot of repairs? Is the house in really good shape, but they have financial problems that they need to solve, serious financial problems? And you would be amazed how many times this is the reason they're trying to sell their house, over the house being beat up. I would say probably half of the deals that we have done over the years have been with people that had financial problems and or other problems, and the house was not the problem. The house was the solution to helping them get out of that problem. And so that's what we do. We talk about the solutions to their situation. And solving problems is very, very important. I always ask my sellers what their time frame is. And because this is going to vary. Sometimes they need to get out of there right away. They need to get that situation taken care of immediately. Sometimes they've got extra time or they need extra time. Well, hey, it's all negotiable. We'll set that time frame according to what they need, not according to what we need, according to what they need. Once we go through all that and figure out all that stuff, now we can start talking about how much we can offer. This is the very last thing I do, is talk about what I can offer them. I solely concentrate on the solution and the problems and that kind of stuff. I always continue letting my sellers know that I'm there to help them with whatever their situation is. And at this point, hopefully I've built enough trust where they certainly see that I'm telling the truth and that they've certainly believed me. And most of the time, it's not a problem. We're golden at this point, if it's a truly motivated seller. Now, we do have our sellers that they just want to try and get the highest price, and they don't care about any of this stuff. So, that does happen. That's just the reality of it. It does happen. But for the most part, this is these methods have worked very, very well for me. And we've done lots and lots of great deals because of it. You always want to make sure that you get your offer on a contract. You always give it on a contract. You always present a contract, no matter what. We do that on every single property that we make an offer on. It's going to be on a contract. It's going to be in writing. All the pages will be initialed and my signature will be on there, or our company signature and my signature. Always make sure that we have room in our offer to negotiate. Don't start at our top dollar. Sometimes I'll come in a little lower on purpose, knowing that they're going to tell me that they don't want that number because I've already got a pretty good idea of where they need to be. But then it gives me an opportunity to come up on my price and get into that sweet spot. And it makes my seller feel much better, feel much more in control of the situation. And I love being able to do that. We want them to feel in control the whole time. And we can be very much in control and do that with everybody we talk to. And, quite often we don't get that deal on the very first time we go out. That's extremely common. So next to that, the most important thing is you always got to follow up. You've got to continue to follow up until they sell that property to somebody else, or they just flat out tell you no and don't call me again. But always follow up for as long as it takes. I have followed up with sellers for 2 years, more than 2 years before. And then one day out of the blue, I get a phone call from them, and whatever their situation is changed. And hey, Steve, and they know, they call me by my first name because I've been following up with them. And it's okay, our situation's changed. We're ready to do business with you. Are the offer and terms that you've been talking to us about, is that all that still good? And if I don't remember, I'll have to go and review it, but 99% of the time it's all good. There's no issue with that. And we're able to go on and do that. But follow up is so important in this business. And you definitely want to do that. So, I truly believe that if you follow these steps, that this will help you convert more deals. Remember that our goal is to help our sellers solve their problems. And I know I've said it a bunch, but I can't stress it enough, but it really is. The more people that we can help, the farther that we will go in this business. And I can say that from 100% experience of my experience. And it makes you feel really good by helping a lot of people out as well. So guys, that's what I've got for you tonight. Real quick here, some contact information for us. We've got the Wealth Club, we've got SVSM Capital, which we talked about. Here's our contact information for that. If you would like a free copy of my Private Lender Roadmap book, you can certainly do the QR code and do that. And our YouTube channel, we've got tons and tons of videos out there, all educational videos, presentations I've done. My marketing coordinator handles that, and I don't know what all, we got a bunch of stuff out there. Please feel free to check us out. And let me take me off the share here. And yeah, there we go.
All right, Steve, let me go ahead and share this part of the screen here, and we'll get into the Q&A.
Okay.
And Steve, definitely one of the things that we really find as a reward as investors here at SVI is that when you landed a deal is when that seller picks you. They actually pick you.
Oh yeah.
You're the one they picked to say, save me from wherever I'm at, or help me find the best solution. And at the end of the day, was it really work? No, it really wasn't work. You're not, if like you said, if you listen, and they will tell you exactly what it is they want. One thing that we do, I'll give you an example, is when we walk, because repairs are so vital in understanding what I like to say that the seller thinks the house is a castle. We think it's a dungeon, and we both have to get down to the garden. Is I always give the seller the scope of work repair estimator, and then I walk mine, and then we meet at the coffee table like 20 minutes later, and we compare notes. I'll probably have 40 line items, and they'll have 4. So then when we sit down, now we can start comparing, and I'll say, wait a minute, I've got replaced the HVAC, and you don't have replaced the HVAC. Great. Do you have the maintenance records? Can I take a look at something that helps validate that this is not going to be a future cost. Well, I don't have it. All right. So how about we meet 50-50 on this cost? And we start to negotiate that repair budget.
Mhm.
And I strongly believe this, and people might hate me for what I'm about to say. Anytime you go trade in a vehicle, you always feel like you're getting slammed, right? Because you never get to go out there and watch the guy appraise your car, and he comes back with such a small number. I don't want to do that to a homeowner. I want to give them the shot to be able to say, this is what I think it's worth, and then let's both come up with an actual answer.
Exactly.
It's about working together. So guys,
it is, yeah.
so here's the information here. This is Susan Moe, Steve's business partner. Here's the contact information for the Wealth Club. We're going to open this up for some questions. And so Steve, let's see here what we've got.
Okay.
On the Q&A, Mr. Joseph Settle asked, how do you estimate interior painting?
Well, at this point, you can, if you have some contractors, you can have them give you a square foot price for that. My crews have been working for me for, gosh, 4 or 5 years now, and I just know what they're going to charge me. So, I mean, I don't even think of it that way anymore, which I apologize for that. But you know, it's going to depend on how big the house is, probably. I would say, you know, well, depending on where we're at in contractors, you're going to get different prices, but talk to some contractors and get some different prices, and then just kind of average it out, especially for walking a property. You know, like I said, we don't have to have the exact number. We just have to have a good number, and feel confident that we're going to fall in pretty close to that number. And most of the time, you know, you know, sometimes I'm a couple $1,000s low, sometimes I'm a couple $1,000s high. You know, but it all balances out.
And also, Joseph, remember that you have material and labor costs. So in some cases, you've got the labor per square foot, then that material will fluctuate. It may be 25 cents a square foot for the type of paint, all the way up to $2 a square foot for the type of paint. And so at that point, you can also then yourself dictate a certain level grade of finish that you want, which then helps with the actual bottom line number.
Right.
So
yeah.
That was a great question there, Joseph. Thanks for sharing.
Very, very good question.
Let's see. Miss Christina Waver says, what was the name of the contract used in Texas?
We use the TREC 1 in 4 residential contract. And if you go on the TREC website, you can get a copy of it.
Okay. Thank you, Miss Christina there. And somebody said, hi, Diego and Steve, do we ask them to sign a release of information, POA forms, etc. at that point? If so, what other documents do we request, question mark? Do we make multi-offers if they don't agree to the first offer at that time?
Wow, that was like a bunch of questions.
But the thing is, they'll all flow into according to the situation.
Right, yeah. It'll be different for every situation. Go back to the first question, because I got.
Okay, it says, do we ask them to sign a release of info, power of attorney forms, etc. at that point?
No, I don't. And of course, there's going to be a lot of variables, because what's the situation with that particular deal? If there's heirship affidavits, I mean, there could be a lot of different things. But at that point, I'm not going to ask them for any of that stuff. If I know that we're going to need that, I'll start prepping them that we're going to, you know, we'll use heirship affidavit as an example. I will let my sellers know that, okay, we're going to get the contract turned in. I've got a 10-page questionnaire that my title company is going to need, and you know, it's going to get all the information about the heirs, witnesses, deceased, everything, and I'm going to generally help my sellers fill that out. But usually we have one person in the family that does that if there's multiple people, and that's how we're going to start that. And then if we need power of attorneys, or we have power of attorneys, that's all going to come after that, once we have title open, and our title company is going to help dictate and guide us on what we're going to need.
Yep.
So what was the second part?
Question is, if so, what other documents can we request?
You know, if you, like I said, the only I request documents if I know that there's going to be an issue. I'll tell my sellers to go ahead and start preparing those documents and have them ready. So once we get title open, as we start sending stuff to the title company, you'll already have it available. Or if you need to get a death certificate, now would be the time to start getting a death certificate, because sometimes they don't have a death certificate.
Correct.
And they might have to go get it. So while in the very beginning of the process, you start, go down to wherever you need to go to get that death certificate or get a copy of it, because the title company will have to have that to keep this deal moving forward. So if we know there's something, I'll start requesting it, but we might not necessarily need it right at the time. If they've got it in hand, I'll just have it sitting right there ready. Once we have title open, we get a number back from the title company that they've opened, then we'll start sending that information to the title company.
All right. Do we make multiple offers if they don't agree on the first offer at that time?
I have in the past, but generally I just try to work off that number, and depending on the situation, can you change your strategy of instead of making an offer to just buy the property to do a flip or wholesale, is there, can you maybe turn that into a sub 2 type of a deal, where that would be a different type of an offer? But you're going to need a lot different information about the loan on the property and things like that. And earlier in my career, I did that a lot more. Nowadays, I do it a lot less. I have enough confidence in how I go at it to where I'm going to stick with that one strategy generally. And I'm pretty good at closing those deals when I'm going down that path, because I'm not concentrating on the numbers. I'm concentrating on the problems and the solutions.
All right. So that question was there. I'm checking to see if we have other questions from our platform here. So great question there.
No, they've all been great questions.
Let's see here.
I just hope my answers were good.
Yes, they were. All right. Let's see here. Here's a question, Steve. So if you're talking to a seller and the seller comes to you based off the offer you make them, how do you tell them, slow down? You think I'm going to make $100,000 on this thing just because I'm making you an offer of 150 and you think it's worth 250 because your neighbor Jim obviously sold his house. How do you get them to understand that you're not making $100,000 here?
Well, it goes back to breaking down who we are and how we do it. I don't have a problem breaking down numbers with a seller, and I will sit there and do that. And one of the most important things I talk about with my sellers is all the holding costs, the back end costs that nobody sees. Because as investors, we know that number can make us or break us. And if we don't account for that number, it will break us on a deal. So I will sit down with them and I will show them how the reality is I'm trying to make a profit of 5-10% on that deal. I'm not making a profit of $300,000 on that deal. Now, we also have the philosophy of we hit tons and tons of base hits. We don't swing for the fences.
Correct.
But we get on base a whole bunch. And by doing that, every now and then, you're going to hit that double. You might hit a triple every now and then. And every once in a great while, you're going to hit that home run. But we don't try to hit those home runs. They just happen because of the volume you're doing. And by doing good business and honest business, sometimes those fortunes come to you. But I'll break it down. I will break the numbers down and I will show them. When you take in, insurance, property taxes, closing costs twice, commissions, how we eat away at that number. And then when on a rehab, when you think your budget's going to be this, and I can only think of maybe a handful of properties that we haven't gone over budget on or come across something that we didn't see. I mean, that happens in rehabbing all the time. Our cost goes up all the time. And I'll break it down for them. And And you know, even though our sellers have issues, they're not stupid people, and they do understand very well when we explain it and break it down to them. And we're being very open and honest with them, and I think that they appreciate that, and they can see that we're not trying to pull the wool over their eyes.
Right. And you know what's interesting is, you know how we train realtors at SVI with our Realtor Advantage training? It's funny how when you tell a realtor how to explain that to the seller, if the seller is ever asking those questions, why is this investor kind of, taking advantage of us? Well, I love the aha moments that I get with the realtors when I say 100% of retail minus 10% for closing cost and realtor fees leaves us 90. And then we have our holding cost and all other incidentals, let's say another 15%, 12% rates, points, appraisals, inspections. And then now that puts us down to 75%. So if that's 70% of the 75 is the offer and the repairs to you, Mr. Seller, that only leaves me 5% in profit. So when I tell that to realtors, I go, what if you were to tell a seller, I want to list your $300,000 property for $18,000? You don't say that. You say 6%.
That's exactly
So
right.
when we say as investors a percentage of 5%, they go, oh my gosh, it's a percentage in the industry. So when you just now said 5 to 10%, that is a base hit. Some people are trying to score these grand slams. And back to a statistic, did you know the most World Series were won by base hits, not home runs?
That's exactly right.
Exactly right, guys. Well, Steve, we don't have any more questions. I know in the chat they've been communicating. And I do want to let everybody that's joining us that we are working with Steve and Susan of the Wealth Club, and we'd like to invite you guys to get to know us at SVI. We work great with Steve and Susan when it comes to helping a lot of their member base come into the implementation base of investing. I like to tell people, Steve, is that we like to grab their clients, their members, polish them up, make them into a super investor, and just hand it right back to you.
Yep.
And so I want to say thank you, Steve, for all the information that you've shared. Here's your full contact information. For those of you, just to say a thank you to some of our other partners and affiliates that we have within the SVI network. Feel free to take a quick glance here and you can scan this QR code and we'd be happy to work with you guys. Also, if you would like a free one-on-one to learn about these fundamentals and items that we've got, go to investorrealestatetraining.com, scan the QR code. If you're a realtor, ladies and gentlemen, Steve, we've got Houston, Dallas, and Austin at Quest already locked down. So we're going to be holding those once a month in every city for our Realtor Advantage. So if you're a realtor, come on down to that training. It's free. And we are, I think, almost at the ability to make that an actual credit class. So that would be super
good. Yeah.
Yep. And for those of you that would like a copy of the webinar, you can find us on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Like and subscribe us, or just call us at info@strataventures.com. Here's our 800 number, or our company webpage. But we definitely love working with a lot of people, especially you, Steve, and Miss Susan, because from when we started working together, I don't think we've ever strayed from the path of why we got into real estate investing.
I agree, and that's so rare in this business.
Yeah.
But look at the growth that we've had over the years because of it, and the personal rewards. I mean, it's really nice to be able to look in the mirror and go, hey, you've done something pretty good here.
Yeah. And I've talked to myself in the mirror plenty of times, because you got to get yourself prepared for this, whether it's your first time or your 800th time of talking to somebody and getting rejected.
That's
Steve,
right.
Any final comments? I do want to thank you so much for your time and look forward to working with you here in the near future again.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, guys, I mean, I want to thank you so much, everybody that was on. I hope I gave you some good ideas and information. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to talk to you and give you any guidance in any way that I can. And like I said, we love working with Strata Ventures. Great group of folks. You guys, if you don't know them, you need to get to know them. And let's get that journey going in your investing career. And so you can go out and have wonderful success and build a great future for you and your family.
You got it, Steve. Thank you so much. Everybody that's joining us, don't forget that our webinars are every other Monday. If you go to our landing page, Investor Real Estate Training, you're going to see all of the up and coming events and topics. And we look forward to working with everybody. Everybody have a wonderful evening. Steve, enjoy your family, sir.
Okay, you too, man. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye.